Woo! Hey guys, thanks so much. First off, I'd like to give a big thank you to Echelon team. All you guys are awesome, and you guys do an amazing job with the whole conference, and it's really it's really amazing. So thank you guys. First off, these guys rock. I am really excited to be here. So I want to take you guys through global growth in mobile apps and technology, and focus on emerging mobile-first markets. And to kind of talk about why this is important and why we have the experience in this. My name is Ryan Shukin. I'm the program director of MOX. I'm also the growth hacker in residence for China Accelerator. MOX is a mobile-only accelerator in Taiwan, Taipei. And I know the first question everyone asks me is, why in the world would you be in Taiwan for a mobile accelerator for growth internationally? And the answer is partnerships and distribution. And throughout the presentation, I hope that it'll be pretty clear of why this matters and why it's why it's so important to be close to the people who you distribute with when you're looking for global markets. William Balbine is the mastermind of MOX and China Accelerator. He's one of the top investors. He has 19 years in tech. He's done over 32 investments at SOSV, which is our fund. He used to be a managing director at Singtel Innovate, and he was a partner at SoftBank and a top-ranked analyst at Deutsche Bank. So to talk about MOX and talk about growth, I want to give an introduction about what MOX is and kind of how we get our growth and how we prep our companies. So we're a mobile accelerator, and we attack the next 4 billion emerging markets, 4 billion emerging users in mobile-first markets all over the world. And what that means is that we have a distribution network of over 100 million smartphones that we distribute our apps on, and we use that to do lean startup style rendition, verification, and we partner that with an advertising platform that's our own, along with a payment platform that sits on top of all of that and allows us to do payments in more than 50 countries. So why does it even matter to give out to so many people? Because our distribution network is primarily Southeast Asia, think India, Philippines, Indonesia, Brazil, emerging markets all over the world, including the Middle East. So we reach out to about 100 million users through our distribution platforms in these areas alone. So our partner base is actually growing every single day by over 250,000 new users, and this speaks volumes to the mobile mind shift that's happened in terms of Android growth and where people are today and how they interact with technology in their pocket and what they do. So mobile first means that these users are the first time they have ever used a device. They didn't use desktops, they didn't use any other kind of platform. They're mobile first for a reason. And this is the first time they interact with it. And they're mobile only because they leapfrog. Their entire economy is leapfrog traditional desktop and landline. They went to wireless and they built cell towers instead. So they're mobile only, and when an ecosystem change happens like this, you don't go backwards. So MOX approach, we get 8 companies to 13 of the best in class from all over the world. This last batch we had 8, and we had them from 7 different countries all over the world. And we bring them to distribute in these markets, and then we use lean startup data-driven, analytic and metric-driven analysis to really understand what is going on, how to best provide value and growth to these companies. And we monetize based on a revenue share model with our distributors. And this leads into the idea of a lifetime value of a user being more important than the hardware that's even on the phone. So this is an idea, this is a look at our current batch, our last batch of what we did. We had Demis Data and Bubble Eye, 2 technology plays. Demis was able to imagine how many mobile users are out there that don't have bank accounts or credit cards. They can't actually get loans or finance. Demis is able to use your usage on your mobile phone to give you a credit loan and approve you for banks. KitKat, Mybrana, awesome content plays, super sticky. Taggle, reinventing the way people use photo galleries on their smartphones. Gift on the Go, gifting in India. Tappity Tunes is the Netflix of comics, and Sweet is a dating app. So what we did for these companies is we built global strategies, launching in more than 30 to 50 countries every single week in different types of models. So we were able to provide faster pivots, more optimization for these companies, return market fit across up to 50 countries, and really, really impressive growth. The most important part is that these companies can test using our payment SDK monetization in each market, which is really important when you're looking at going global. You need to be able to be flexible, you need to be able to have platforms that allow you to test just as fast as you are. So our program is also mentorship driven. We get best-in-class people from all over to help lead people and lead our startups into the best practices. So SOSV is our fund, and they run accelerators all over the world. They're the accelerator VC. Hacks, the #1 hardware accelerator. In IndieBio, they are able to build rhino horn without the rhino, meatless meat, eggless eggs. They're inventing all these different types of ways to do things. UrbanX is reinventing the way we move around the city. FoodX, feeding a food movement. And then China Accelerator is bringing ideas globally into China and China ideas out. But let's talk more about the mobile mind shift that happened. An important thing to talk about is to lay down the baseline of, in 1984, 9 million PCs were sold. That was the unit, how many PCs were out there. And then it took 30 years, it took 3 decades to go from 9 million to 300 million plus, where we kind of are right now. And that's a lot. But mobile phones have been around for a much shorter period of time. And they have seemed to be everywhere now. And what's their impact? They have grown to 1.5 billion units sold in 2015. And this is a really conservative number, because I'm just trying to get smartphones. If we want to factor in tablets, then we double that number, and we get 3 billion smartphones and tablets running iOS and Android all over. So what does this mean? This means that there is a mobile mind shift happening. It's indicative of how people interact with devices as much as how the devices change around us. What that means is a new ecosystem is king, and that ecosystem is absolutely mobile. It's mobile from the way that we interact with apps. It's mobile from the way that the power of the computer, the supercomputer, is now downsized from mainframe all the way into your pocket. So if we look at kind of the shift of how things have gone, we've gone from desktop, mainframe, desktop, laptop, mobile. But what is the next thing that we're already seeing? That next thing that we're already seeing is app ecosystems. So it's people relying and bundling services. I mean, there's a famous quote saying the only way that you can ever make money off of software is bundling and unbundling. And what they've done is they've bundled and unbundled and built their own walled gardens to create these app ecosystems all over the world. And these app ecosystems keep users inside and increase the lifetime value of that user in that system, where they provide value to every single part of that person's life. So if we look at this, we can say that already in the US, apps equal half of all minutes seen on the internet. And this is mainly driven by Facebook. But if we look at how powerful apps are and how they have become platforms on top of platforms, they almost don't even need the platform anymore. It's kind of like an extra thing. It's really nice to have, but the platform in itself controls so much more of what you do and why you do and how you live your life than ever before right now. So if we look at the messaging world, and we look at the most, like WhatsApp, 800 million active users, and we have the left side and we have the right side. There's a big difference between the left side and the right side. It's not apparent exactly right here, but it's apparent in the way that they act and they have their mobile mindset. So if we look, we want more Western focus and more Asian focus on the right. So when we try to see what is the app ecosystem that is being presented in these kind of apps, we find that the right side provides messaging, group messaging, calls, voice calls, payments, stickers, games, e-commerce, media, QR, food delivery, taxi services, development platform. WeChat is such a good platform for developers that it's actually cheaper, more efficient, lower cost, and it's a better platform to MVP and test your products. So if you're doing startups in China, you're looking to build stuff, you want to build flexible inside of WeChat before you even look at doing anything else, because they've created this walled garden, this ecosystem, this app ecosystem that is more powerful than saying, yes, I want to release on iTunes or Google Play or anything else. And the right side of that column, they don't really have much to say. They're not near this, but they are catching up and they are trying, but it kind of speaks to an idea of a mobile mindset, of a desktop-based mobile mindset. And one of the things that this right column had in common is that they all had a lot of growth and a lot of competition in emerging markets with mobile-first users. So if we look at this selected list of mobile users by country, we can see that this is kind of where the right side of that list was competing. And this is how they were growing. If you look at the other side, that's not a coincidence that MOX distributes pretty much the exact same list, because we realize that those users, the mobile-first users, the people who are seeing phones for the very first time, they're some of the most valuable users out there right now, and they're completely undervalued. They help us understand what the next 4 billion is going to be like, and they're going to eventually be the majority, and we're not. So the emerging mobile markets, these emerging mobile markets, they leapfrog. They don't do the same things all the other markets done before. They don't build the desktops, they don't do the lines, they build cell towers. And they get connectivity that way. And people can have a lower entry cost for getting a mobile device in their pocket in all of these countries than ever before. So the price for a user is lower. So the tablet is actually just another version of the PC, but it's built in a way of the mobile mindset, because the tablet is just one more rendition and a bettering of the product from the desktop. So let's say if we look at the old kind of idea of a desktop, monitor, mouse, those are the kind of things, how you integrate with them. The desktop versus the mobile has touchscreen. Its entire interface integrated in its entire product. You are part of the interface instead of you having to work with a mouse and a keyboard, the monitor, these kind of things. You can take it anywhere. It's scalable and it moves with you and it moves with your business. So globally, Android is basically dominating all of the emerging markets. And there's a few reasons for this. The emerging markets, they need more flexible operating systems. There's local kings everywhere, and they need to be able to use their own brand and skin and rebrand different types of ROMs. And there's even ROMs and companies that will help them build that and rebrand and skin lots of different types of Google platforms. Because the vanilla Google isn't as appropriate for all these markets as you'd think. So if we start looking at what does a mobile first user look like? So we've compiled a lot of data from our over 100 million users, our billions of pushes to these users and data to try to get an idea to help you guys understand that when you do market to a mobile first user in these growing economies, what do they look like and how do they act? So these are the countries that I pulled this data from our back end, and their phones range from around $50 to $100. So this isn't, there are some cases where the phones are around $25 and then also some cases where they're even cheaper than that. But in certain areas in the world, like in India, the price tiers of phones are so granular that even a price bump of $5 can mean a performance bump in one way or another. And so it's very, very sensitive. So we find that on average we're looking at 50 to 100. That also means that sometimes when you're looking at that, these users will eventually move on to better phones, but I actually think they won't be moving on to better phones and paying for them. So phones are not always turned on. The data that we get talks about how these users, it's funny because you'd think that their retention would be bad and they wouldn't be quality users able to engage in whatever your app does or technology. But that's not true. Even though they're not always turned on, they do turn on and peak on the weekends, they engage with your app and your technology over and over again on the weekend and share. So the engagement level roughly stays the same, despite the fact that your phone's off for a few days during the week. This is due to work schedules, traveling, people. We were trying to build more profiles based on each country, the data that we get, but as we keep on learning, we're going to get more and more data and get better at this. So a lot of the phones, even though they say they aren't, we believe that a lot of the phones, even though the people are vehement that these are not 4.0, are 4.0. And that means two things to me, that either they aren't 4.0, but the hardware is set up that 4.0 always performs better. And 4.0 is a long time ago. A lot of new apps and a lot of new technologies just don't perform on 4.0 right now, and it's actually a task to downgrade your technology. But we found a massive, like a monumental increase in user adoption based on simply downgrading their technology to 4.0 and above. In these emerging markets, 4.0 for right now is king. Eventually this will keep on creeping up, but it seems like users don't update and they don't engage with the system preferences of their phones very much on what they're doing. So data is really expensive, and this is true all over in these emerging economies and for these users. So they're always using Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi represents about 99 to 98% of all the downloads that happen. But these users, when they get Wi-Fi, they try their best to stay in that one area to download it. This means that data needs to be small. The size of the package needs to be as small as possible. So if we look at how expensive data is in emerging economies, 500 megabytes of data can be, in the least developed countries in the world, about 15% per capita gross national income. It's just too much. It's really ridiculous. So what we did, which really had an increase over testing, was we found that the magic number was 3 megabytes. Any technology and anything that you distribute in these growing economies, 3 megabytes was the fastest and easiest way for user adoption. If you had to have other packets or things downloaded on top of that, that's okay. But the initial user adoption was always 3 megabytes. So apps larger than 10 megabytes, which 10 was the suggested, converted to install 27% less. If we went up, we boosted that to 20 megabytes or even 30, we got even more significant drops in installs and downloads. And there's a few reasons for this, and I have a case study to show everybody here. So this is an app that we all distributed. This is the same app distributed in India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. This was a very early distribution on these channels. And if we look at India, it was the same content, just localized messaging. We saw that there was a large majority of people starting the downloads, but there weren't a large majority of people installing. And so after looking at the data, we discovered that the reason for this was because we weren't asking properly the way to tell users that they needed to actually make an action after it downloaded. So the idea of a download, just saying download to a mobile first user, seems like just download it and then it does whatever it's supposed to do. So we A/B tested a ton, and we found out that things like download, install, download plus action item increased that from 35% to over 80%. We were able to get the conversions really, really high on that simply by changing the way that we worded and the points at which we presented the information of you need to download or update or download and install. So another learning, because this is all early data in the program, was the Indonesia one. And we found that Indonesia was one of the best markets for stickiness. That people who were able to get through the funnel and all the way to install, they loved the app, they loved the technology. Everything they used it over and over and over again. But finished downloads was pretty low. And one of the reasons that Indonesia is really sensitive to app size. So this was before the app was small. The app was about, I think, 21 megabytes at this point. And we saw a massive increase in conversions, massive increase after we were able to downsize that, and then the stickiness in Indonesia kept on growing. So the Philippines, last one, we saw that there was a bad drop off in terms of finished downloads, but a high percentage in installs. So what that means is that to us, because we're still learning from the data as we're trying to look at it, and we're trying to analyze this data in a way that most of the telecoms and OEMs, they aren't trying to do as much testing and as rapid A/B testing as we are. That there's a trust, there's a lot of built up trust with certain telecoms in the Philippines. And there's a lot of people are very used to pressing yes or accept on whatever they want with certain types of telecoms. But again, the finished download rate is really sensitive to the 10 megabytes and under categories. So in the old model of hardware, all software, back to kind of like the big idea of mobile and where it's going, you had one channel, you had hardware would sell, software would sell, you'd get that one revenue stream. And that's how things have been for a long time. But the new model, it's terrifying and it's free. Because whatever you are getting for free, you are the product. So you got to be careful of this, and this is what's happening right now because of this app ecosystem growing everywhere. So this is a play into the lifetime value of users in ecosystems. These big companies are making bets that the lifetime value of customers in their ecosystem will outweigh the cost of any initial hardware they give you. And they don't really care what the hardware is. They can give you a good enough device for the hardware for just about free, and then your user journey through your life, because that platform, that app platform can exist on multiple versions of phones. It follows you wherever you go, even if the hardware doesn't. So here's an example. This is the free or almost free phone, and you spend a few dollars on stickers, let's say in China, and then you have a 1% transfer fee for some kind of money you need to do at one point, and then you have another transfer fee for something that's going on in your wallet because you're starting to put money in there because they get that service, and then you decide you want to do some games, you put another $10 on there for games and things like that, and then you have daily SMSs coming at you with advertisements. You're being sold to. All parts in your phone are now being bundled with advertisements and being sold. And so even when you're not doing anything, you're basically being made money off. And this is terrifying for a lot of reasons because the phone no longer becomes yours. This is one of the reasons why Xiaomi is doubling down on this. But we at MOX, we want to make this more free and build this. So we're focused on building the next Facebooks, the next WeChats, the next ecosystems, and the next emerging market. Because we believe that the next 4 billion users in all these markets, they're going to define and redefine our entire mobile experience as a collective. They're going to have more power than we've ever had. So these global first strategies that we try to work with our startups, we've seen a direct unfair advantage. Not only are they able to get massive amounts of growth and test on a massive size in terms of their user and monetization and their business strategy, but they get to reiterate and learn how each market reacts differently and build products for them. So the great part is that when partners see what we're doing, they join up. Because partners get a percentage of a revenue share of every lifetime value of an app. And so this continues to perpetuate into more downloads, more installs, more user acquisition down the line, because now the OEMs or telecoms that were not getting any lifetime value, they were getting that one-time payment for, I want to download this, I want that. Now they're getting something more, and they're getting the lifetime value. And they see that this is really, really important. So the next game-changing technology will come from this. So here's a case study, one more. This is Taggle. They were the mobile-first design gallery for your smartphone. So imagine Android 4.0, the gallery on it was terrible. So this was one that would work with Android 4.0, mobile-first, based on hashtags and one-finger swipes for all of your actions with a private thing. This company, when they joined us, had a strategy that we built for them to launch and develop in 10 different countries. We got their file size down to 3 megabytes. We localized their messaging. We made them Android 4.0 compatible. We added reminders because we talked to the users. We added reminders to clean up old photos to free space, because these users, we found that the price bumps and difference between a $50 phone, you basically are buying memory, different types of levels of memory. So they were helping you free up memory. Fast data-driven approach to A/B test. And one of the first weeks, we went from 4% to 40% CTR. But in the second weeks, we went from 100,000 users to over 1 million. So the growth is there, and these platforms do work because people want this stuff. Big guys, they'll always lose to little guys. Taggle's smarter, they're faster, they're leaner, they'll work harder, but they'll only win if they think bigger and reach further. So mobile is the next desktop. It's beyond that. And the newest users are none of your users yet. They're really nobody's users yet. They're up for grabs. And the new emerging markets represent the majority of these users. Tech giants, they're doubling down. They're doing everything they can. Why would Facebook want to give free Facebook walled garden internet to all of the world in India if they weren't thinking that this was going to be the biggest play they had? They're trying to figure out what's the lowest cost that I can get as many users on my ecosystem before anybody else happens, before any of you guys start building growth strategies for all over the world. So apps, yeah, they're serviced ecosystems now. They're not even just an app. They're not even individual. They're modular. They service your life. But the technologies and the apps that venture into going global, they can compete and innovate. All the technology and all the things that you need are already there. And we just kind of put them together as MOX to make it easier. But this is available for everybody. So what are the strategies? Let's say like a few just quick tips if you're looking for building and localizing. Number one, localize your messaging. Content and messaging should be localized. We see a big increase in that. Number two, rapid data-driven validation. If you can't rapidly change the way that you're doing something and reiterate, you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's not going to be good enough. Aim for the smallest file size possible, low baseband. Like we're talking about, really has a good thing. It dramatically affects the user acquisition. Other thing is understand your market because multiple markets are different. This is why MOX has the payment platform and the ad platform laid on top of it. So we can help you better understand who's going to pay for what, at what price, and where. So one last thing, this is TappyToon. They're the on-demand smartphone comic app. They're like Netflix for comics. They were the killer app of Indonesia, India, and Thailand during the program. They had amazing growth and incredible stickiness. And their payment SDK continued distribution, looping it in, because the more acquisition they had, the more lifetime value that would go back to the partners. So TappyToon users, they spend an average of 5 minutes in the session, and the big guys, they spend 45 minutes per session in the app. That's the same as Facebook. Already, these users are good users. People underrate the value of these emerging economy users highly. But these are good users. They can be done. Yeah, they turn off their phone. When they use it a lot. So, kind of about in conclusion, the mobile first users are going to take over the world. They're going to be the biggest group of users, and we're going to be building apps and technologies to service them first. The gold rush has already started, and technologies that go for global are going to right now have a competitive advantage. So MOX is going after the 4 billion. We want to leverage our partnerships, our mentors, and our program to make the next big game changers. And if any of you guys are interested, want to know more, want to find out more, you can go ahead and contact me. My name is Ryan Shukin, and you can email me at rshukin@mobileonlyx. Applications are open right now. Thanks, guys.